Okay, I think we're recording. Hello and welcome to the British Museum Members Quiz. You don't need to be a member of the British Museum to play this quiz, but obviously it helps, as it does with everything in life. That is, being a member of the British Museum. I would say that. I'm Izzy Lawrence. I present the British Museum Membercast, a podcast for members and non-members of the British Museum about all the goings-on inside the museum and out. I also present Making History on BBC Radio 4, and I've had a go at this quiz, and it is a doozy. It's a tricky one. I mean, if you get all the questions right to this, you are officially a British Museum Clever Clogs, which I think beats a British Library Smarty Pants. So, you know, it's serious. All you're going to need for this quiz is a pen and a piece of paper. You can play it with family and friends as well. We're recording this during the COVID lockdown. I do hope that you are well and your friends and family are too, and you're safe and you're following government guidelines. But like I say, all you need is a pen and a piece of paper. It's going to be 3 rounds. And it's all going to be based around, well, first round's going to be the history of the British Museum, and the next round is going to be putting objects in order, in date order, and the third is going to be more objects, because we're a museum. We like objects. So enjoy. Like I say, also you're going to mark your own stuff, because you're going to need to be honest, because after each round I'm going to give you the answers, and in the answers are extra points you can get. There are bonus questions. Woohoo! So you're going to have to be honest and mark yourself. So I trust you. You're upstanding members of the British Museum and the rest of you. But yeah, no, I do trust you. You're going to be awesome. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Round 1. The history of the British Museum. Question 1. In what year was the British Museum founded? Now, it's worth having a guess at this if you don't know the answer, because this question is worth up to 3 points. I'm going to give you 1 point for the correct century, 2 points for the decade, and 3 points for the exact year. And I do expect you to use either BCE or CE or BC or AD in your answer as well, because that is just proper. Question 2. True or false? The British Museum did not install electric lighting until the 1950s. It was a common misconception that electricity would cause damage to ancient artefacts and was likely to start a fire, so it was banned along with gas lamps, oil lamps and candles. The entire museum was lit by natural light until 1952, when funding came through for lit galleries. Until then, the museum was regularly closed early in winter due to the darkness. Now, is that true or false? Question 3. What type of animal was Mike, who helped guard the gates of the museum for over 20 years in the early 20th century? Was he A, a cat, B, a dog, or C, a parrot? Question 4. What was unusual about the book Professor Munakata's British Museum Adventure, published in 2011? Was it A, it was 1.5 metres high? Was it B, it was printed with ink containing cherry juice? Or was it C, you have to read it from back to front? Question 5. What inscription is written on the floor of the Great Court at the museum? Is it A, and let thy feet millenniums hence be set in midst of knowledge? Is it B, standing on the shoulders of giants? Or is it C, yes, call upon the wisdoms, let the world tremble, for when others leave, we remain? Question 6. The British Museum used to share its buildings with what other London institution? Was it A, London Zoo? Was it B, the British Library? Or was it C, the National Gallery? Question 7. In May 2005, Banksy had an unofficial exhibit at the British Museum, but what did it depict? Was it A, a pair of Egyptian stone handcuffs? Was it B, cave art of a man pushing a shopping trolley? Or was it C, a Roman statue of a boy in a toga wearing sunglasses? Question 7. We have a sarangbang on display at the British Museum. What is a sarangbang? Is it A, an Indian firework from the 17th century? Is it B, a Korean scholar's study? Or is it C, a type of South American candy made popular during the World Cup? Round 1 answers, here we go. So, question 1. What year was the British Museum founded? It was 1753. So, if you said any year in the 18th century, so it begins 17, you're going to get a point. Well done. If you think it was in the 1750s, that is 2 points for you. And if you think it was 1753, you can score the maximum 3 points. Question 2. True or false? The British Museum did not install electric lighting until the 1950s. And that was false. In fact, the British Museum was one of the first buildings in London to install electricity. So there. Here's a bonus question for you, very quick bonus question. What year, so this is going to be for 3 points, what year did they install that electricity? It's one of the first buildings in London to install electricity. Remember, you can get a point for the century, you can get a point for the decade, and you can get 3 points if you get all of them right. So, what year did the British Museum have electricity installed? And the answer is... Quickly, get it down. Write it down quickly now. 1879. Well done if you got that one right. Question 3. What type of animal was Mike, who helped guard the gates of the museum for over 20 years in the early 20th century? Was he A, a cat, B, a dog, or C, a parrot? And the answer was obviously A, a cat. Question 4. What was unusual about the book Professor Munakata's British Museum Adventure, published in 2011? Was it A, that it was 1.5 metres high, B, it was printed with ink containing cherry juice, or C, you have to read it from back to front? And the answer was C. It's obviously because it was a manga book. So you actually read it back to front. 5. What inscription is written on the floor of the Great Court at the museum? A, and let thy feet millenniums hence be set in midst of knowledge. B, standing on the shoulder of giants. Or C, yes, call upon the wisdoms. Let the world tremble, for when others leave, we remain. And the answer was A, and let thy feet millenniums hence be set in midst of knowledge. Now, for a bonus point, who wrote that? And while you think of that, I'll tell you who wrote the other two. Maybe you know Standing on the Shoulder of Giants was in fact Isaac Newton in 1675, although I believe he was quoting a guy called Bernard Charters, I think. So don't presenter, not expert. I'm not a curator, presenter. Might be wrong. Bernard Charters, I think. And obviously everybody knows that the full quote, cry out in defiance of this jiggity-joggity. Let's call upon the wisdoms. Let the world tremble, for when others leave, we remain, was obviously from the 2006 film Happy Feet. Go Penguins. And the answer to the bonus question, who wrote and let thy feet millenniums hence be set in midst of knowledge, was of course Alfred Lord Tennyson. Question 6. The British Museum used to share its buildings with what other London institution? Was it A, London Zoo, B, the British Library, or C, the National Gallery? And it was B, the British Library. Also a fun fact is in the 1880s, it was agreed that the natural history specimens belonging to Hans Sloane, who was the founder of the British Museum, moved to a new site in South Kensington and became the Natural History Museum. But it was still officially being known as the British Museum of Natural History until about 1992, even though they separated in like 1963, I think. But yes, there we go. So here's a bonus question for you, based on the British Library. In what country is the world's largest library? Have a think on that. In what country? Who's got the most books? Guess the country? I bet some of you know which library it is. I bet you. Smarty pants. And the answer to the bonus question, get it on paper quickly, you've only got a few seconds left. And the answer is America. It's the USA. The Library of Congress contains 15 million books. Question 7. In May 2005, Banksy had an unofficial exhibit at the British Museum. But what did it depict? Was it A, a pair of Egyptian stone handcuffs, B, cave art of a man pushing a shopping trolley, or C, a Roman statue of a boy in a toga wearing sunglasses? And the answer was B, cave art of a man pushing a shopping trolley. So here's a bonus question for you. For how long did the unofficial exhibit go unnoticed? Was it A, 50 minutes, just under an hour? Was it B, 3 hours? Or was it C, 2 days? Quickly, get your answers in. Which do you think it was? How long was that unofficial Banksy piece of art in the museum for before one of our curators noticed and reported it? How long? How long? Come on. The answer is C, 2 days. Although I have to say, Banksy said it was 3 days. We have a sarangbang on display in the British Museum. What is a sarangbang? Was it A, an Indian firework? Was it B, a Korean scholar's study? Or was it C, a type of candy? And the answer was B, a Korean scholar's study. The reconstruction of the traditional Korean scholar's study was built by contemporary Korean master craftsmen in the summer of the year 2000. Be careful when you go up to it because there are alarms around it and they can go off, so don't go into it. It's brilliant if you go and see it. Hello and welcome to the British Museum Members Quiz, Round 2. Put these objects in order. So I'm going to show you 3 objects from the collection. It's up to you to put them in the correct chronological order of which they were made. So I want you to put the earliest object over here and the latest object over here. Now you're going to get 3 points if you get all 3 correct. If you get 1 correct, you're going to get 1 point. And if you can name the century of one of the objects, and you get a point for that. So if you can guess the century it's from, you're going to get a point. And do remember to use BCE and CE or BCAD, whichever you rather, but don't forget to do that because that is important. Important you do that. So here are your first set of objects, and I really like all these objects because they're all dogs. So here we have this object here, and then you've got this object here, and you got this object here. So there you go, all doggies. I think my favourite is probably, of all the dogs in history, is Sota. Because if you remember, in Corinth, in Greece, I think it was 456 BCE, a guard dog named Sota was responsible for saving the city's residents from attack by Persians. So have you put them in order? Good. Let's move on to the next set of objects. Now, all of these are iconic objects from the British Museum, so I hope you recognise some of them. You have this object here. I wonder what that could be. You have this object here. I regularly see this one because it's as you come through. I like to go through the north entrance when I go to the British Museum. Bit of a sneaky tip for you: go through the north entrance. It's a good. There's a big queue. Often the north entrance is not as busy. Just saying. And this object, just guards one of the rooms before the Great Court. And then there is this amazing object here. It doesn't look amazing. I'll show you why it's amazing in the answer section. But I want you to put which is the newest and which is the oldest. Remember, put them in order. Earliest to latest. Okay, and now another 3 objects for you. This is the last time you're doing this. So you've got these 3 objects. They're all from Japan. I love objects from Japan. So you've got this object, yeah. You've got this object, and you have this object. Some of them might be familiar, some of them might not be. So put them in the correct order. Okay, and I'm not gonna trick you. I'm not sneaky, am I? Have a good think. Put them in the order that you think they were made. I've never been to Japan. It's something I really want to do because I do jiu-jitsu, so I know loads of the words in the wrong accent with the wrong tonation, and actually probably completely wrong. One fun fact: I think this is right. I found there's a period in Japan where they were all building castles. Like there was a ridiculous number of castles. Unfortunately, most of them were destroyed because they're seen as really arcane and backward and feudal. But there were over 5,000 castles in Japan at one point. 5,000. That's a lot of castles. They like their Anyway, put the objects in order, guys. Don't listen to me talk about castles. Have you done it? Right. Let's go back and see if you got them right. So the answers to round 2. I hope you've got your hats on because, whoa, this is going to be a biggie. So I hope you weren't too distracted with my talk of Sota the dog. He's my favourite dog, though. He saved Corinth. He's only a little dog. He saved when all his friends died. That's sad. Anyway, so we've got the 3 dogs here. Now, the first one, this one is actually the most modern. I know it's got a picture of Orpheus on it and his dog's there, but that's actually a ticket to Vauxhall Gardens. And you'll be pleased to know you've loads of opportunity to score a point, because if you said that it was from the 18th century, so 17 something, you'd be correct. Also, if you said it was from 18 something, you would have been correct. This is both 18th and 19th century. We don't know when it was, but roughly from 1732 to 1859, Vauxhall Gardens were issuing tickets like this. Now, that's a lot nicer than a paper ticket, isn't it? That's substantial. That's pretty cool. It's actually designed by William Hogarth. So this is a gold amulet of a dog. I know if you look closely, he's actually got hooves, which is confusing. But this is actually 1st century BC or BCE in Libya. So there you go. So that's where, and I've already put him in there. So as you know now, the next one is in the middle. It is the vase in the shape of a dog, and that is from the 1st century AD, and that is from Peru. So there we have it. 3 doggies. I love the fact that dogs are loved throughout culture. It's because they're cute. Okay, question 2. We've got 3 iconic British Museum objects. I hope you recognise the Rosetta Stone. If you didn't, it's written all over it, I swear. It's not. But in several different languages, it has its date on it. If you don't know, the Rosetta Stone is from 196 BCE. So I will put that there for now. Oh, there you see. The next one, which is also the next one in date order. Now, I'm going to try and say this. Can I just say for the beginning, the Easter Island statue. Thank you, because I'm now going to try and pronounce it, and I'm going to try and read and pronounce it, and I apologise to anybody from Easter Island. Here we go. It is called Hoa Hakanananea. I'm sorry. I tried. But anyway, that is from 10-something to 12-something, so the 11th to the 13th century. We do not know exactly the date, so you've got loads of chance to get a point. If you said it was from 10-something, if you said it was from 11-something, if you said it was from 12-something, you'd be correct. Okay, finally, now this thing is amazing. This is the Lycurgus cup from the 4th century CE. So the Lycurgus cup is a Roman glass cup made of diachronic glass. Now, diachronic means if you look at it one way, it's one colour. If you look at it another way, it's another colour. You don't believe me? See, it's green now. If you put a light behind it, it is red. How cool is that? So, yes, it's one of the most treasured of our collection at the British Museum, and it is awesome. So now we have the 3 objects from Japan. Now, it won't surprise you that, yes, there's no trick. The Sony Digital Clock Radio, it's actually from, now a few of you might have said it's an early one, but it isn't. It's from 2008. So that, if you said it was from the 21st century, you would have been correct. If you said it was from the 20th century, you are incorrect. Ha! The next one, actually, next to that, is Under the Wave and so this is obviously Hokusai's famous painting of the wave at Kanagawa. I can say that without reading, I swear. But it's beautiful. I don't know if anybody went to the Hokusai exhibition at the British Museum. It was awesome. And that leaves this. And people, I really wonder, because to me, this looks like something modern to me. This plate, it looks, amazing. It looks like something Clarence Cliff might have done. But no, it is from the 17th century. This is 1660. And it's an 8-lobe dish. So there we go. And that is the end of this round. How did you do? Add up your scores. If you got them in the right order, 3 points. If you got them 1 right, you get 1 right mark for that. And obviously, if you guessed the right century for each object, that was up to 3 points per question. So add up your scores now. And now it is round 3 of the British Museum Members Quiz. This round is all about my favourite objects because I'm important and I get to pick them. And and this has to be, I think, possibly one of my favourite objects ever. It is. I find it very spooky, but also very beautiful. It is actually human remains. All of these mosaics are placed on an actual human skull, and it was likely worn on the back of the head. This is, we think, a representation of Tezcatlipoca. I think I'm saying that right. Who is an Aztec god. This Aztec god is one of the key deities in their pantheon. He is the god of the Great Bear and of the night sky. And here is the question. He was believed to inhabit which creature? And when I say inhabit, I mean he was represented by which creature? So if you had a dream and this creature came to you, you'd know it would be Tezcatlipoca. I've got to say his name correctly. Tezcatlipoca, I believe, is how you say his name. But what was he? Was he A, represented by a feathered serpent? Was he B, a jaguar? Or was he C, a coyote? So which do you think? Have a look at the skull. Maybe there's some clues in there. Maybe there isn't. But have a good think about which one he was represented by. Now, the Aztec Empire, we think we know a lot about it, but I find that it's one of those ones where I go, oh, actually, I didn't do this in school. Maybe, I can't remember. So I want you to tell me, in part 2 of this question, where on this map is the Aztec Empire located? Which bit? You tell me. Where do you think it's located? My second favouriteest object in the British Museum is possibly this coin. This is of Cleopatra coming at you. And it was the reason I like this coin so much isn't because it's particularly beautiful, though I think it is. It is actually was made during her lifetime, and weirdly not by a realm that she conquered or was actually part of her governance. I don't think this was people outside probably trying to show support in order to annoy the Romans or support the Romans or whatever was happening at the time. It's very political. But this is a representation of Cleopatra that she might have seen herself, which I think is, it's so, I just find that really exciting, as I do most things about Cleopatra. So part 1 of this question is, how old was Cleopatra when she became queen? Now you can get 3 points for getting her exact age right, and you can get 1 point either side of the year she became queen. So how old was she? Now, part 2 of this question is, she was married, Cleopatra that is, Cleopatra the 7th, she was married 3 times. But which of these men didn't she marry? Was it A, Ptolemy the 13th? Was it B, Mark Antony? Was it C, Julius Caesar? Or was it D, Ptolemy the 14th? Okay, my third favourite object in the British Museum is this. It is an adorable llama. And I know, to be honest, I mean, without the llamas, there would have been no Incan Empire at all, I don't think, because the Incas relied on the llamas. They had no horses to ride. They had nothing to pull any, tractors, plows, or, to deliver anything. It was just llama packs. That's all they had. These are people, their empire was about 12 million people. They had no writing, they had no iron or steel, they had nothing with wheels, and yet they managed to keep an entire empire going. They're incredible. And this is one of the most beautiful objects, I think. It's a beautiful design, it's made out of gold, and yeah, I just adore it. So I hope you adore it too, and I hope that you adore the Incas, because I have a question for you about them. I want to know, what year was the Incan Empire formed? Okay, so there is an exact year for this, so I want you to give me the exact year. Obviously, you get a point for the century, a point for the decade, and a point to get it bang on correct. Now, I've already said that they had no writing system, so they did have a, large bureaucracy. They had an empire of 12 million people. So what they used was a thing called quipu, okay? And quipu was a method to record and communicate bureaucratic information. Some people even think, basic stories. But what were quipus? Were they A, a string with knots tied in, so they could use the knots as a way of remembering? Were they B, a staff, also used as a weapon and a way of herding llamas, and a status symbol as well, but the notches carved into the staff were the quipus? Or were they a series of bowls in which you'd put dried out beans or dried out shells, and these somehow had a communication that we don't quite understand? So what was it? Was it string, was it a staff, or was it shells and beans? Okay, I'll be honest with you, this was not my favouriteest of all the objects in the British Museum. I just personally love that it's in there, because it's just a reminder that the British Museum doesn't just collect objects from the past, it also collects modern objects and preserves them as well. In fact, if you speak to modern curators, actually, biodegradable objects are a real nightmare for them, because it's all very well us saying, oh yeah, but we don't want pollute and everything else, but plastics, if they break down on their own, that's a real problem if you're trying to preserve them. So one of the things that comes up. But I thought, this is a telephone, obviously a mobile phone. I thought, brilliant, I know loads of questions about telephones, and this is probably my favourite one. Okay, so this is the question inspired by this object. In what year was the first telephone directory in Britain? When was it published? What year? In fact, I know the month and the day. So if you know all of it, you get 5 points. A point for the century, a point for the decade, a point for the year, a point for the month, and a point for the day. Boom. All right, if you get all 5 points, you are an genius. Well done. Okay, and B, which country has the most languages of all the countries? I'm going to show you a map of the world. Is it red, is it green, or is it blue? And a bonus point for the name of the country. And finally, it's question 5. And this is personally inspired by this object, which is a beautiful object. It's actually a discharge ticket for a gladiator. A gladiator, I can't remember his name now. I think it's called Moderatus. And this is his freedom ticket. This is his owner saying, you're free. Here you go. Here is your discharge papers, even though it's an ivory thing with his name carved into it. It's a beautiful object. It's so personal, and it says so much about the culture, and I absolutely love it. But it inspired this particular question, also inspired by a call from my stepfather, who let me know that in the pond where he lives, well, he doesn't live in the pond, but in his house pond, he found a newt for the first time. So is it a gladiator? Is it an emperor? Or is it a newt? Gladiator, emperor, or newt? So, your first one. Spartacus. Was Spartacus a gladiator, an emperor, or a newt? Your second one. Elagabalus. Elagabalus. A gladiator, an emperor, or a newt? Plurideles Peretti. Gladiator, emperor, newt. Spiculus. Gladiator, emperor, newt. Pertinax. Gladiator, emperor, or newt? Marcus Attilius. Gladiator, emperor, or newt? Maximinus Thrax. Gladiator, emperor, or newt? Triturus Cristatus. Gladiator, emperor, newt? And finally, Commodus. Gladiator, emperor, or newt? Quickly mark it down. The results are coming. Okay, the answers to round 3. Buckle up, here we go. So, the god... here we go. The god Tezcatlipoca, or Smoking Mirror, was the god of the Great Bear constellation and of the night sky, one of the major deities in the Aztec pantheon. He was believed to inhabit which creature? A feathered serpent, a jaguar, or a coyote? The answer was a jaguar, the spotted skin which was compared to a starry sky. So, locate the Aztec Empire on this map. And the answer was yellow! There you go. Now, bonus question, very quickly now, so you've only got a few seconds to answer this. What city was built on the ruins of Tenochtitlan? Tenochtitlan was one of the 3 cities that the Aztec Empire was made up of, because the Aztec Empire wasn't an empire, it was just 3 cities, a federation, I suppose. And the answer? Mexico City. Give yourself a point if you got that right. Question 2, Cleopatra the 7th. How old was Cleopatra when she became queen? She was 18 years old. So it's 3 points if you said 18, 1 point if you said 17, and 1 point if you said 19. She was married 3 times, but which of these men didn't she marry? Was it Ptolemy the XIII, Mark Antony, Julius Caesar, or Ptolemy the XIV? And the answer was Julius Caesar, although she did have a kid with him. And rather weirdly for us now in modern days to understand it, Ptolemy the 13th and 14th, they were two different people, but they were both her brothers. So it was a weird thing in the Ptolemaic kings that they did marry siblings, which seems very odd to us now, but back then kind of made diplomatic sense. I mean, if you're going to co-rule with somebody, at least, you know, another queen, your sister, knows you quite well, I suppose, but it is a bit... how about this for a bonus question? How many children did she have? And, if you know their names, you get an extra bonus point. So I want correct number, and then if you know any of their names, put them down. Okay, you've got like 10 seconds. Cleopatra's kids, how many? Get a point for that. And if you know their names, get a point for each name you get right. Boom. Could have a guess. Got it? Okay, let's see if you got your bonus question right. She had 4 children. They were Caesarion, Cleopatra Selene II, Alexander Helios, and Ptolemy Philadelphus. So, if you got those right, give yourself a point. Caesarion, obviously Caesar's kid. And if you didn't guess that she'd call her daughter Cleopatra, you were a fool. And also, all her brothers are called Ptolemy. One of them was bound to be called Ptolemy, surely. Okay, finally, question 3, the Incas. So, what year was the Incan Empire formed? It was formed in 1438. As recently as that. Absolutely incredible. Now, I said that they had no writing system, but they did use quipu, and I wanted to know what quipu were. Do you have your answer? Were they A, a string? Were they B, a staff? Or were they C, beans or shells? And the answer was string, and here is a picture of them. They're amazing. So it's almost like a code. There's knots specifically, placed on the string, and where the knots are on the string. Nobody actually knows exactly how to read these, but it's incredible. And in the British Museum collection, which is absolutely wonderful. So, question 4. It's good to talk. So we had here a picture of a phone, and I wanted to know the exact date of the first telephone directory in Britain. And that date was in 1880. So 1 point if you guessed the 19th century, if it starts with an 18. If you guessed it was in the 1880s, that's a second point. And if you guessed it was 1880, that is a third point. Well done, you. If you guessed it was January, you got another point. And if you knew it was January 15th, that is 5 points, my friends. You are awesome. Okay, so which country has the most languages? Did you guess red, green, or blue? And the answer was green. That's right. And if you didn't know, I asked if you knew the name of the country. That's an extra point if you do. And it is Papua New Guinea. So there we go. And finally, we have the most important, the part we've all been waiting for. Is it gladiator? Is it emperor? Or is it newt? So, the first one, Spartacus. Spartacus was a gladiator. I know, it surprised me too. Elagabalus. Elagabalus was an emperor. I know, went from 218 to 222 and was bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Also known as Heliogabalus, because he was a sun-worshipping god type thing. He's just crazy. The stories of like making his guests eat like, crockery. Like fruit that was made out of clay and drowning them in rose petals and genuinely drowning them and then making them sleep in a room and then putting wild animals in the room and then waking up and dying. Oh, fun guy. Okay, next one. What is Parodides Poretti, gladiator, emperor, newt? It's a newt! It's a beautiful newt. How dare you ever think it was a Roman? Spiculus. He was a gladiator. Of course he was. Best mates with Nero until Nero tried to have him killed, and then it didn't matter because he'd run away. Okay, so now we have Pertinax. Sounds quite newty, doesn't he? It's not a newt. It's not a gladiator either. No, it's an emperor called Pertinax. I also use Pertinax on my dishes at home. Next, Marcus Attilius. Marcus Attilius might sound like a newt, but isn't a newt. Is in fact a free man who became a gladiator. I know. get him. Used it to pay off his debts and apparently survived, so brilliant. Maximinus Thrax, also known as Maximinus I, was Roman emperor from 1235 to 1238. Tricturus Cristatus, gladiator, emperor or newt. It's a newt! Of course it is. It's a northern crested newt. Beautiful newt. Can't believe you'd be fooled. And finally, Commodus. Commodus, gladiator, emperor or newt. He was an emperor, but also a gladiator, but also was not a newt. So you get a point. So add up your scores and tell me who won. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you very much for playing the British Museum Members Quiz. I have been Izzy Lawrence. Please listen to the British Museum Membercast podcast. It is for everybody. We give you insights into the lectures at the British Museum. We go behind the scenes, look at the science that's going on in the museum as well. It is really good fun. You could also check out the collection. It is online at britishmuseum.org. Please do that, and also consider being a British Museum member. It is very rewarding and your money is put to some amazing science and conservation purposes. So thank you very much. I hope you stay safe and healthy, but I hope you stay it too. I hope you stay safe and healthy in this time, and if you want another quiz, maybe give us a like. Also, share this video with your friends and subscribe to the British Museum. Thanks very much.